Jain everyone. I am Shruti Jain, Assistant Professor from MCA Department, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Today we are going to study about the conditionals and loops in C programming language. This topic is covered in problem solving in C subject. Subject code is KCA 102 and this is basically for the MCA students. So coming to the conditional statements, conditionals and loops play an important part while we are building the logic of the program. So the conditionals are basically used to check the conditions whether a condition is true or false. Whereas when the condition is true, it will execute a certain set of statements, and when the condition is false, the other set of statements will be executed. Loops, they are used to execute a particular piece of code or a particular block of statements multiple number of times. So loop is basically executing a set of instructions n number of times or as per the user's choice. So conditional statements, these are used to execute a group of statements. If a condition is true, then a certain set of instructions will be executed. Otherwise, if the condition is false, the other group of statements will be executed. Now, we have different types of conditional statements. The first one that we have is a if statement. The second is a switch statement. Coming to the if statement is basically a two-way decision making statement which talks about whether a condition would be true or it would be false. So two-way would be if the condition is true, certain set of instructions will be executed. And if the condition is false, the other set of instructions will be executed. Now, there are four different types of if statements. The first one is simple if, where the presence of else is not there. Only if the condition is true, the set of instructions will be executed. Otherwise, nothing. If else, where we have set of instructions for the if as well as the set of instructions for the else. Nested if else, wherein we have multiple if else conditions, if within an if. Else if ladder, where we have if else if blocks. So we'll be studying each of them in detail. So simple if statement has a syntax as if the test expression with some statements that are to be executed and then it is stopped. That is, we don't have multiple conditions to be checked over here. So this is the statement block and this is the flowchart that we are going to check. So here, if the test expression, that means if the test expression is true, then these set of instructions will be executed. We don't give any block of statements for the false conditions. So the condition is true, then this set of instructions will be executed. If the condition is not true, it will automatically come out of this if block. This if block will not be executed and the statement X will be executed at the end. So this is a flowchart wherein this test expression is executed. This is checked. If this is true, then the statement block for the true block is executed. If the test expression is false, nothing will be executed of the if statement and only the statements that are outside the if block will be executed. So this is the simple if condition. Now if we look at the execution of it that we have already checked, is the test expression is evaluated first and if the result of the test expression is true, then the statement blocks inside the if statement will be executed and the control comes outside the if block. If the test expression is false, the statement X that is outside the if block will be executed. The if else statement, it is again a two-way decision making statement wherein we have the set of instructions to be followed, to be executed when the condition is true. The other set of instructions will also be there, which will be executed when the condition would be false. Now, when the condition would be either true or false, one set of block will be executed and then the certain set of statements will be executed that are outside the block of the if conditional block. So if we look at the flow chart, this is the flow chart that is given. So here the test expression is checked. That will result in either true or false. Now when the test expression is true, this statement block will be executed. This statement block is for the true statement. If the condition is false, then this block of statement will be executed. This is for the false. For example, if suppose we need to check whether a person is eligible to vote or not. So here the test expression could be, we'll check whether the age of the person who is entering is greater than equal to 18 or not. So if the age of the person is greater than or equal to 18, if it is true, then here it will enter and it will print that it is eligible to vote. And if the age is not greater than equal to 18, that is less than 18, then it will execute the not eligible block of statements. So this is how it works. So this block will be executed only when the age is greater than equal to 18. For example, the user enters the age as 24. Now, if the user enters the age as 24, this if will check whether 24 is greater than equal to 18, that is true. It enters into the if block and then it executes this statement which says that the person is eligible to vote. Now, if the person enters the age as 15, now this 15 is not greater than equal to 18, this condition becomes false. It moves into this false block and else block basically, and then it displays that the person is not eligible. Same comes with the flow chart. Here the test expression is checked. If the test expression is true, certain set of statements will be executed. If the test statement is false, certain set of instructions will be executed, and after this if is executed, the statements that are outside the block, if block, will be executed. So execution of the if else statement. First, the test expression is evaluated. If it is true, the block 1, that is inside the if statement, will be executed and the control goes outside the block. Otherwise, if the condition is false, block 2 will be executed, that is available in the inside the else block, and then the control goes outside the else block. After the if else block is executed, the control moves outside the if else and the statements that are available outside the if else block will be executed. The next one that we have is nested if else. Nested if else will have multiple if conditions, that is if within the if. So if we look over here, we have a if test expression. Within this if test expression, we check another test expression. We check for another if. This if else is for the inside block, and then we have if any else is available over here, then that else will be written below. So this is nested if when we have, so this is the else statements now. These else statements are for this if condition. So we have two if else blocks. One if else block is contained in the if and the other if else block is contained in the else block. So this is this is the syntax for the nested if else block. So if the condition is true over here, another condition in this if block will be checked. If that is true, then the statement block 1 will be executed. That means for this statement block 1 to be executed, this test expression 1 should be true and this test expression 2 should be true. When both these test expressions are true, only then the statement block 1 will be executed. When this is true and this is false, the statement block 2 will be executed. Same case, when the first expression, test expression will be false, then this else will be executed. When this if will be true, then the statement block 3 will be executed and block 4 will be executed when this and this will be a false statement. So, coming to the flowchart of the nested if else. So we have this as a flowchart wherein both the conditions are checked together and then they result in a exiting from the block if condition. So this is the test expression. It checks if it is true, then another test expression will be checked. When this will be true, statement block 1 will be executed, and if it is false, statement block 2 will be executed. Similarly, when the test expression 1 will be false, again the expression will be checked. If it is true, then statement block 3 will be executed. And if both the conditions, that is, this is false, then statement block 4 will be executed. The next one that we have is else if ladder. Else if ladder is when we have multiple conditions to be checked. That means suppose we need to give a grade to a student. So we have A grade for the students who are lying between the grade 90% to 100%. B grade is for 80, maybe 80 to 90 and so on. So there we have this else if ladder, if else if ladder, wherein we have if condition, else if condition and multiple else if conditions with the else at the end. So whenever we are using this else if ladder, the conditions will be written for the if block, for the else if, but else will be executed at the end wherein the conditions are not given, only the block of statements are available. So if the test expression is for 1 is true, then the block of statement 1 will be executed. If this is not true, if this is suppose false, in that case it enters into this block, checks whether the test expression 2 is true or not. If this is true, then this will be executed. If this is also false, it will enter into the else and will execute the statement block 3. Same goes for the flowchart, wherein the test expression 1 will be checked. If that is true, then certain set of instructions will be executed. If this is false, then again an expression will be checked. If it is true, statement block 2 will be executed. If that is false, then the statement block 3 will be executed, and at the end we have the certain statements which are outside the conditional blocks. The next type of conditional statement that we have is a switch statement. Switch statement is a multi-way decision making, like we have seen for the if else. It was a two-way decision making wherein the condition was either true or false and the block of statements were executed accordingly. But in the switch case, it is a multi-way decision making statement in which the value of expression is compared with various case values for equality. Here, like when we were working with the if else, we could check the condition of any type, like with the arithmetic operators, with the logical operators, relational operators. But while we are working with a switch case, we only check it for the equality sign. The syntax for this is, we have a switch with an expression of, the expression contains the equality. Then we have different case values. The case values will be checking the values that are given in the expression. This expression will be matched with each of these case values. And the case, when the case values, when this value matches with the value in the expression, that particular case is executed. For example, if we tell the user, press 1 if you want to add two numbers, press 2 if you want to subtract two numbers, press 3 to show the multiplication. So in that case, we'll check for the user's choice here and we'll see whether the user has pressed 1, 2 or 3. Suppose we store this value in a variable ch. So whatever value the user will be giving over here in ch, in this expression, if the value is 1 over here, it will add the two numbers. This block of statement will be executed. If suppose the user has entered the value 2 for subtraction, this block of statements will be executed. For value 3, this block of statements will be executed. If the user has not entered any value from 1, 2 and 3 but has entered any other value, it will enter into the default and will execute the default statements. That means whenever we are working with the switch case, one of the block of statements will always be executed. If the values get matched with any of the case values over here, then those particular cases will be executed. Otherwise, the default case will be executed. Now, looking at the significance of this break statement, this break statement basically helps in exiting the control from this switch block. Suppose the user has entered the value as 1. That means the case 1 block will be executed. It will add the two numbers, display the result. As soon as the compiler come across this break statement, the execution will terminate from this block. So the control of the statements will move outside the switch block and the statement X will be executed. So this break statement plays an important role when we are working with a switch case. This break statement helps in exiting from the switch case and brings the control to the next line that is just below the switch case. So coming to the characteristics, the switch case has some limitations. Those limitations and some of the characteristics are explained over here. The case values can be integral, that could be int or char. Why char? Because all the character values have their ASCII codes which are in the integral value. So int and char can be interchangeably used. Case values cannot be float or strings. Default can be placed anywhere inside the switch case. Break is not mandatory inside the switch. There is no limitation on the number of cases that are there. Case values can be expressions which consist of different constants, or it could be like these are the constants with different operators. Like we can have 2 plus 3. So 2 plus 3 will give the result as 5 and then the switch will be executed on the value 5. Now the difference between the if-else and the switch case. The first difference that we have is the if-else contains multiple expressions with multiple choices. We have if, else if, ladder. Switch, it contains single expression but with multiple choices. Like expression would be just one. Like we had an example of add, subtract, multiply, divide. The expression was just one where the user will enter the value 1 for addition, 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplication and so on. Expression is one but the choices are different. Accordingly, the execution of the program will be done. In if-else, it tests for all the relational and logical operators, but the switch case, it tests only for the equality. If-else, it evaluates to integers, characters, pointers and floating point types, whereas the switch case only works on the integers and the characters. In if-else statement, editing is difficult because when we have nested if-else, every if block or every condition is interrelated to the other. But editing is comparatively easy in the switch case because every switch case is different from each other. So that was related to the conditionals where we were basically checking the conditions imposed on different parts of the program. And when the condition was true or when in case of switch, when the choice was matching, then a particular block of statements were executed. And when the condition was false, the other set of instructions or this other set of statements were executed. Now coming to the loops. Loops are basically when we are repeating a certain set of statements. So loops are used when we want to execute a part of program or the block of statements multiple times. It can execute a part of program repeatedly till some condition is true. Here again, we need to have a condition, but yes, here the repetition of the block of statements is there. So there are three types of loops. The first loop that is there is a for loop. Then we have the while loop and the last one we have is a do while loop. Coming to the while loop, whenever we are working with the loops, we have the three main things that we need to keep in mind. The first one is the initialization, the second one is the condition, and the third one is the updation. So when we are working with the while loop, in that case, the initialization, condition and the updation are all in at 3 different steps. The first step, that is initialization, is done. Then once the initialization is done, the condition is checked. If the condition is true, then the body of the loop is executed. Within the body of the loop, we have the updation statement. With the body of the loop, we have the updation statement, and finally, when the while loop is exited, then the certain set of statements are executed. Coming to the flow chart, we have in the flow chart, first thing is initialization. The entry of the loop starts, the condition is checked. If the condition is true, the body of the loop along with the updation is done. When the condition is false, the other set of statements are executed, and finally, this body of the loop is executed till the time this condition remains true. So this is a loop over here, and once this condition becomes false, only then it moves out of the loop and the statement X is executed. Now, suppose let's take an example to print the maybe the first 10 natural numbers. So, whenever we have to print the first 10 natural numbers, in that case, the initialization, because the natural numbers start from 1, we initialize I with the value 1. Now, this while condition will check while I is less than equal to 10. In that case, it will printf the value of I, and once the value of I is printed, it increments and then it proceeds. Now, how does the flow work? The value of I is 1, it moves into the loop, then the condition is checked, is I less than equal to 10? Yes. Since I is less than equal to 10, it enters into the loop. It prints a value of I as 1. Now, I is incremented, that is, it increments to 2. Again, enters into the while loop. It checks the condition, 1 less than equal to 10, true, enters into the loop. 2 less than equal to 10, true, enters into the loop, prints the value 2, increments to 3, and so on. Now, when it comes to the printing of value 9, because 9 is less than equal to 10, it prints a value 9. It increments it to 10. Now, it checks 10 less than equal to 10, true. It enters into the block, prints a value 10, increments I to 11. Now, is 11 less than equal to 10? It is false. It moves out of this while block and executes the rest of the statements over here. So, this is how the while loop executes. So, the steps of execution. First, the initialization is done, condition is checked. If the condition is true, then the body of the loop is executed and the loop variable is updated. Again, the condition is evaluated till the time the condition is true. When the condition becomes false, the loop terminates and the statement X, that is outside the loop, is executed. The next type of loop that we have is a for loop. In the for loop, we have the initialization, condition and updation check all at the same level, all in the same statement. So, here we have a for loop with the initialization first, condition and updation, body of the loop and the statements. How does it work? First, the initialization is done, then the condition is checked. If the condition is true, it enters into the body of the loop. When the body of the loop is executed, the updation is done. Once the updation is done, again the condition check is there. taking the same example to print the first 10 natural numbers. So here, instead of initializing and checking the condition at different steps, we'll start with for I equals to 1, I less than equal to 10, I plus plus, and then we'll print f %d I. Now, how does it work? The value of I is 1. It checks whether I is less than equal to 10 or not. Since I is less than equal to 10, it enters into the block. It prints f I, that is 1. This I increments to 2. 2 less than equal to 10, yes, 2 is printed. Then increments to 3, 3 is printed, and so on till 9. 9 increments to 10, 10 less than equal to 10 is printed. Then again I is incremented to 11. 11 less than equal to 10 is false. It comes out of the loop and executes the rest of the statements if they are available. So coming to the flowchart, again the initialization is done. When the condition is checked, till the time the condition is true, this body of the loop keeps on moving and moving. Once the condition becomes false, it moves out of the loop and executes the statement X. Now, the steps of execution for the for loop. First, the initialization is done. It is done only once whenever the loop is started. The condition for the condition for the for loop is evaluated. If the condition is true, that is, the condition is non-zero, then the body of the loop is executed and the loop variable is updated. Again, the condition is evaluated and this continues entering into the for loop. This continues till the time the updation is done and the condition is true. As soon as the condition becomes false, the loop terminates and the statement X, that is outside the loop, will be executed. The next loop that we have is a do-while loop. The do-while loop is different from the while loop just in one case, that here the body of the loop is executed first and the condition is checked later. Now, due to this change in the sequence, we have a different type of loop that is being executed. Now here, when we initialize the program, or when we initialize the variable, the body of the loop executes first. Since the body of the loop executes first and then the condition is checked, that is why this loop helps in the execution of the program at least once. Even if the condition is false, this loop will execute once. And once the condition is checked in the while loop, only then the exiting from the loop will be there. So, if we look here, we have the initialization, do, and then the body of the loop. Now, coming to this, we have the same example. So, here the initialization would be with 1, do, will print the value of I, printf, %d, I, and only then it will check while I is less than equal to 10. So here when I is equal to 1, it will print I, then only we have I plus plus also. It will increment and then only it will check the condition. Coming to the loops, the flowchart. Initialization, the body of the loop is executed, then the condition is checked. If the condition is true, then the body of the loop keeps on changing and changing. Once the condition becomes false, the statement X that are outside the loop will be executed. So the steps of execution change over here. First, the initialization is done, the body of the loop is executed, the loop variable is updated, and then the condition is evaluated. So, once a condition is true, again the loop, it enters into the loop, executes it, update the variable, and this continues as long as the condition is true. Once a condition is false, the loop terminates and the statements outside the loop are executed. Now coming to the difference between the while and the do while loop. Because in the while loop, the condition is checked at the first stage, that is at the entry of the loop. That is why while loop is known as the entry control loop or the pre-test loop, whereas do while is known as exit control or the post-test loop. In the while loop, the condition is checked first. If it is true, only then the body of the loop will be executed. But in the do while, first the body of the loop is executed and then the condition is checked. In the while loop, we do not put the terminator sign in the while because the body of the loop still exists. But in the do while loop, because the body of the loop is already defined, only then we have the while condition. That is why we put a semicolon at the end. The while loop executes either 0 or more times, that is, it might not execute even at once, but the do while executes at least once and it could be more times as well. Again, coming to the difference between the for and the while loop. In the for loop, the initialization of the variable is done with the loop condition again itself, but in the while, the initialization and the other things, the condition check and update are 3 different steps. In the for loop, we know the number of iterations, that is, the for loop is for fixed number of iterations, whereas while loop can be, the while loop can be used when the number of iterations are not known or they are not fixed. For loop, because all the 3 initialization, condition check and the update are done in the same line, therefore it takes less line of code as compared to the while loop. Then we have the goto statement. This goto statement is an unconditional jump statement which helps us to jump from one point of the program to the other point. For example, if you look over here, we have a goto label. This loop is a label. So, as soon as a control comes to this loop, the control get transfers to the same label and then the execution starts. So, it breaks the actual top-down approach of the program, the flow of the program. So, as soon as this goto encounters, this goto is encountered, the label that is over here is checked in the whole of the program and the control directly get transferred to that label and then the execution of the program starts. Now, in this case, because we have the loop existing at the top, so as soon as this goto is encountered, the loop is executed, the block of statements inside the loops are executed. Again, the if condition is checked, goto loop, this keeps on changing till the time this value of n, which is incremented over here, does not become false. Once it becomes false, this goto is skipped and the program terminates. But if we look at the same example where the goto, this loop is written at the bottom, in that case, the condition is checked first and then the goto loop. As soon as it moves out of the loop here, it does not enter into the if condition again. And hence, the output is a single 0 because it works only for one value. Here, because it is moving and displaying the values, that is why the result is a value the way we execute a loop over here. The next statement that we have is a break. We have already seen the break statement. In the switch case, it is used to terminate the execution of the loop and it transfers the control to the first statement, that is after the loop. So, if we look at the syntax, we have a for loop with multiple statements, if condition, and then the multiple block of statements. We have an example again over here. If we look at the example, in this for loop, when the value of I becomes 5, it breaks. That means this loop will execute only till the value 5. Because as soon as the value becomes 5, it breaks, it comes out of this for loop and executes the rest of these statements. Continue is just the opposite. It transfers the control to the updation in the for loop and the condition in the while and the do while loop. So, if we look at the syntax over here, we have the for loop the condition check, where we check for the continuity of the program. So in this case, if we look over here, we have the for loop, and if the value of I is 5, it continue over here. So when the value of I will be 5, in that case, this printf will not work. So the result over here would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it comes to 6, 7 and so on till 10. Now the difference between the break and the continue statement. The break statement can be used inside the loop and the switch statement. The continue statement can be used inside the loop. The break statement terminates the execution of the loop statement, whereas continue stops the current execution of the loop and begins the execution from the next iteration, the way we have seen in the previous one. The break statement is primarily used as an exit statement, whereas a continue statement helps in jumping from the current loop iteration to the next iteration. Nested loops. A loop within a loop comes out to be a nested loop. For example, we have a for loop over here. When we use another for loop inside it, that is known as the nested loop. Now, when do we use each loop? The for loop is used where we know the number of iterations. While loop is normally used where the number of iterations are not known. The do while loop is used where we want the execution of the loop to be done at least once. So this is the basic difference between the for, while and the usage of the for, while and the do while loop. Thank you so much.